Listen, a good amount of my videos are recorded at like midnight, 1 a.m., etc., etc. I'm not gonna always look like a 10 out of 10. You gotta look ugly to look good. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wow, 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 wow.
There is nothing worse than somebody who peaks in high school. Maybe diabetes. That can be pretty bad. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. Not great either. They were the quarterback of the football team and would have totally gone pro if they didn't have that ACL injury during the championship game.
Like a foul ball at a football game. First of all, football doesn't have foul balls. Ugh, sports.
In the same vein, we also have people who are academically gifted and they academically peaked in high school or maybe middle school. I don't know. I really only heard the phrase gifted kids being said during elementary school, so we're kind of just gonna stick there. So what is a gifted kid? That's a good question. It's different than a Christmas kid, I'll tell you that. Run it, my dear, don't ever disappear. As of right now, that is still my best performing video on my channel. I sound like a football player reliving the glory days right now. Like, remember that video that did so well? God, I would have been a famous YouTuber by now if I didn't tore my ACL. If you were a little smarter than the average bear when you were in school, then schools would put you in a special gifted program in order to challenge your brains. Not to brag, but I was a gifted kid in elementary school. Can you tell? I don't know. Can you tell? Is that shocking? Do some of you guys think I'm stupid? I always get all the time on my videos. People are like, wow, you're so well spoken and da. I'm like, thank you, I think. But yes, I'm a gifted kid. I was a gifted kid in elementary school. Please hold your applause. Hold your applause. Okay, I mean, you can applause a little bit. Thank you. By the time I got to middle school, though, the gifted program wasn't a thing because it wasn't like a distinct program in the school. I mean, it was kind of a thing, but it was not as obvious as it was back in elementary school. Because back in elementary school, with a lot of people, gifted programs, like certain kids would be pulled out of the classroom and were taken to a separate location to learn whatever it is that they learned. I vaguely remember the gifted program. It was just a thing. But I remember in middle school though, there were like 3 different level core classes that you could be in. I don't know, this is going to be a little hard to explain, but in my school, there were like a group of like 3 or 4 teachers, okay? Because there would be like maybe 12, 13, 14 teachers in each grade because my school was a pretty chunky school. There was a good number of students. And so they would have like multiple teachers in like one grade. And you're gonna have to stick with me here. But there would be like 3 separate like groups of teachers that taught a group of kids. So I would have friends who were in a different group than me. And so during like our core classes, I would never ever have a class with them. In the actual grade, there would be like groups of teachers. And so each group of teachers, they would teach math, science, English, and history, the core classes. And it was really obvious who like the smart kids were because the groups would be divided upon like difficulty. So one group would be like the most difficult classes you can possibly take in that grade. And then there would be like a group in the middle that was like, yeah, it wasn't as difficult, but it wasn't easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then there was the group that was very much easy peasy lemon squeezy. Not to stereotype the kids, but it was like you knew who was in each group. But it really wasn't that big of a deal though, guys. I sound like such a snarky little bleh, but I promise it really wasn't that big of a deal back then. We all knew. We just didn't talk about it. But anyway, yeah, it was just super obvious who the smart kids were and who the other kids were. But by the time I got to middle school though, I don't know, I started caring less about school, honestly. Like, I wasn't like flunking or anything crazy like that, so it wasn't that bad or anything, but I just wasn't excelling like I was back in elementary school. And even in elementary school, I wasn't really excelling either. I was excelling in some subjects, but not all of them. I'll get to that later though. But yeah, I started like settling in for like mediocrity by the time I got to middle school. It was a whole thing. Honestly, I blocked out a lot of middle school. I don't remember exactly what happened specifically. Like, of like the 3 groups in each grade, I was in the middle, right? Not the smartest, but not the least smartest. I don't want to call kids dumb. They weren't dumb kids, okay? I'm avoiding it. I'm avoiding that verbiage. That's not what they were. Verbiage? No, adjectivage.
I need to stop test driving new vocab words in the middle of videos. That way strangers on the internet can call me stupid for not using the word right. Like, I just Googled what the definition of verbiage is. I didn't use it right. I didn't use it right at all, actually. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, why on earth did I say that? And like, girl, cut the cameras. And I'm being so serious.
See, I'm such a gifted kid. Yeah, I don't remember much about middle school, honestly. Ugh. I blocked out a good chunk of middle school. But honestly, I have been asked this before. Would I redo middle school if I could? And I'm going to say the insane answer and say yes, simply because there's a lot of, I knew some really insane stuff happened when my middle school choir, we did like a concert for 9/11. Like, it was the anniversary of 9/11, and we did like an in-school concert. Like, it was like during the day, teachers and classes would come out to listen to us sing like a bunch of like American super patriotic songs. That was crazy. Like, that was a little whack. But I repressed a lot of those memories, and I honestly kind of want to remember them, and I'm willing to sacrifice my sanity to experience those things again, because it was crazy, bro. Well, I'm sorry, I digress. Today we're going to be talking about former gifted kids. All right, that's the theme of tonight's party. Sorry it took me a minute to get there. Every once in a while, I'll see someone in their 30s talk about how they're struggling in life despite being able to read like a 7th grade level books at the age of 9 years old. I don't know, it's sad. Really, it's really sad. I mean, not sad in the I feel bad for you way. No, it's sad in the party ended 20 years ago and he's still here kind of way. But let me not be mean though. I'm not a mean person. I'm the nicest person I know. And I know everybody. Contrary to popular belief, I actually don't enjoy being a hater all the time, because that's exhausting. It's like a very exhausting life to live, and I choose not to develop stomach ulcers due to stress. There is psychology behind being a former gifted kid. And as y'all know, I got my degree, my PhD in Yaponomics. So here I am to tell you exactly what that psychology is, even though I am not technically qualified to give you this information, because I didn't study psychology. But I'm gonna give you an answer anyway. I'll make something up, trust me. Welcome back, class. It's been a while. I hope you've had a great spring break and didn't spend that whole break being holed up in your room playing Fortnite for 14 hours a day. Don't look at me like that, alright? It's only okay if I do it. Gifted kid syndrome. Why do they still latch onto this title like a baby latches onto her mother's yitties when they're hungry? It's simple, really. Validation, alright? As a kid, they were told that they were going to do great things when they grew up because of the potential that they showed at an early age. For example, if a kid is naturally good at math, that was me, then maybe a good STEM job is in their future. Teachers and parents are constantly praising these kids because of how smart they are, and the kids get addicted to that validation. They believe that their self-worth is tied to their academic achievements, which is a recipe for disaster. As these kids grow up, their ability to grasp concepts in school doesn't come as naturally anymore, and they essentially become like everybody else. Sure, learning long division was a walk in the dog park, but that trigonometry class that they're taking right now, yeah, it's kind of like walking barefoot in the fiery pits of hell, and the floor is somehow both made of lava and glass, and you're really confused about how the ground can be both lava and glass, and you're also confused about the damn hypotenuse of a triangle and how to solve for cosine and tan, and you're also really confused about why Jeremy didn't ask you to homecoming and instead he asked Emma. There's a lot of things going on in your head. By the way, that's not a true story. That didn't happen to me. The only home I came in was... Pause. The only way I came... Pause. I only came home to... You know what, forget it. It's fine. Gifted kid syndrome is feeling disappointed that you didn't live up to the potential that adults in your life peeped in you when you were 8 years old. It's not just a shame. It's a damn shame. That's enough for me. You better do tonight's homework, and if I catch you using ChatGPT, then I'm smashing in your kneecaps. It's totally legal for me to do that, by the way. I talked to the school district. They were really weirdly eager to sign off on that. I think they kind of don't like you. There's a lot of back and forth with this conversation, and I think for the most part, people are tired of grown-ass adults complaining about not being as talented as they were when they were in elementary school. Like, it's one thing to feel this way when you're still in high school, but if you're still feeling like that and you have a mortgage to pay, then it just starts to become a bit annoying. I can sympathize with the 16-year-old who's just now getting a taste of reality, but you should have grown out of that mentality years ago. Like, you're pushing 40. It's time to wrap it up. The issue with former gifted kids is that they never learned how to work for what they got academically. They didn't have to study, and they didn't need extra help to grasp the material. When they're faced with academic adversity for the first time, they don't know what to do to overcome it. It's such a slap in the face because the solution usually comes naturally, and it's not anymore, and so they're kind of floundering. It's kind of like that one episode of The Boondocks. I've been watching The Boondocks. I've been rewatching it recently. I'm always rewatching The Boondocks, though. That's nothing new. I remember, yesterday I was watching this episode. It was the episode of Riley playing basketball. Riley realized that he wasn't as good as he thought when it came to basketball.
Playing against people ain't like playing against furniture, is it?
I ain't never playing again.
So that's it, huh? You just gonna go on and quit. Well, I was excited seeing you out there.
Granddad, I look like a fool out there. I can't shoot the ball, and I don't know why.
Because you don't practice.
Oh, so that's what practice is for.
There's also the issue with how humiliating it is to not even be in the gifted program at your school at all, because it's like, yeah, being a former gifted kid, that sucks, whatever. But what about the kids who were never really gifted in the first place? Yeah, that sometimes is like a slap to the face to those kids too. There's actually an episode of Abbott Elementary where they talk about the ups and downs of having a phone program for a select few students while everyone else had to fend for themselves. What hurts more than being a burnt out gifted student is being a student that was told time and time again, albeit it wasn't directly. Kids aren't stupid, they can read between the lines, but they're told time and time again that they're not that smart. Yes, it sucks not living up to the expectations that were placed on you, but it sucks even more when nobody expects much from you in the first place. Some kids are okay with that. Some kids are quite okay with not living up to be anything, but there are other kids who are genuinely trying, and it's just but it's just not coming to them as quickly as some other kids. It's demoralizing.
There's nothing wrong with the gifted program itself. We just need to organize it better so that the regular kids, the ungifted kids, the regifted kids.
Let's lift up the other kids.
Yes, that.
Look, if the program is making the kids feel bad, I don't think it's worth it.
Guys, there has to be a way to improve the experience for the other kids, Make them feel special too.
I'm sure you'll figure it out, Janine.
Do not even get me started with neurodivergent kids and the gifted program. Too late. I'm already getting started. Let's get it started in here. When a kid acts a little differently than the majority of their peers, adults think that they're going to be the next Einstein or Rick Sanchez. Hey, we were just talking about you, dude. All good things, all good things. I've been reading a lot of stories from former gifted kids, and there seems to be a common theme. Their neurodivergence played a big role in why they were in the gifted program in the first place, but there are side effects to this as well. Kids who are fortunate enough to be diagnosed with mental conditions like autism are capable of excelling in school depending on how that condition manifests within them.
Okay, let me clarify because listening back to that sounded really bad. My bad. When I say fortunate enough to be diagnosed, I mean fortunate enough to go to a doctor and have an official diagnosis. That's what I'm talking. That's the fortunate part, is actually being able to be diagnosed, because there's so many kids out there that are undiagnosed for whatever reason. The fortunate part is being able to be diagnosed.
The problem comes in when other conditions are also present but aren't nurtured. A lot of people who were in the gifted program and were diagnosed with something like autism also discovered down the road that they also had anxiety, depression, and many untreated issues. Their emotional needs were glossed over because the adults in their lives only really cared about them succeeding. Like, I remember I was reading this one story, it was on Reddit. It was this one story of a kid who was, well, they were a kid at the time. This happened to them personally. But when they were talking to a psychiatrist or something, the psychiatrist was talking about how they potentially had, like, they didn't say the word autism, but they were like talking about symptoms of autism and stuff, and how them at 5 years old, you know, they spoke very eloquently and they were, or just well spoken in general for a 5-year-old. The psychiatrist was kind of praising the intellect that they had at 5 years old, and their mother, they didn't really care about all of the other things that the psychiatrist was saying, because they were also talking about like anxiety and talking about, I think, some other things. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they were talking about how they potentially had some other issues, but their mother didn't care because they just liked hearing their child being praised for being smart. And so their mother kind of overlooked all of the other stuff and really just focused on the fact that, hey, my kid is special. And speaking of untreated mental illnesses, there are also kids who just have learning disabilities, all right? Because, yeah, some people in the gifted program, there may be some just like untreated stuff there, sure. But then there's people who aren't in the gifted program because of those learning disabilities. There are kids who have the potential to be gifted, but they aren't given the chance because they don't learn the same way as other kids. Schools are notoriously underfunded, so I am not blaming the teachers for not being able to accommodate for all of their students, but there has to be a way to help kids who struggle with dyslexia or ADHD in school. Like, come on, people. Bella Thorne didn't preach about her dyslexia during every ad break on the Disney Channel just for y'all to play in her face.
My name is Bella Thorne, and this is the story of the time I found out I have dyslexia.
Just due to underfunding in schools, it's like, all right, how many smart kids were overlooked simply because they just learned a little differently? Like, that has to suck. The reason why a lot of people do not take adults who were former gifted kids seriously is because of them clinging on to that title and using it as an excuse to be lazy. This is not my opinion, okay? This is what I heard other people, I heard it through the grapevine. Like I said before, they never learned how to actively work to complete a complicated task, and they developed this mentality that working hard at something equates to failure, because you shouldn't have to work at something in order to complete something. Like, you should just already know how to do it, and if you don't already know how to do it, then you failed, and so in turn they give up. The counter argument here is that these people never learned any proper techniques to overcome those challenges. Like, they didn't learn how to study. They didn't learn how to like take the necessary steps to complete something like the hard way, like manually. Honestly, I can see both sides of the argument, like Chanel. My guy pretty like a girl. I understand why people are annoyed at former gifted kids, but I can also see that it's not the former gifted kids' fault that they were labeled at such a young age and made that their entire identity. Like, I don't know, some people, they're just wired differently. As a former gifted kid, I never felt the crushing defeat of not being as smart as I was in elementary school. Like, a lot of people talk about it. It's like, oh, how you guys feeling now that you're an adult and you're not like amounting to much in life? I'm kind of just vibing, dude. I have this vivid memory of my math teacher in 6th grade, actually. I remember my 6th grade math teacher telling my parents during like a parent-teacher conference thing that I did just enough to get by. I remember it was ingrained in my memory. I do just enough to get by. And that is really true. I do not feel any desire to exceed expectations by a mile. I do just enough to get by. Look at my YouTube editing. Look at my videos. I'm not the best editor on this platform. Not by, oh my God. I edit my videos just enough to get by. I think my Christmas Kids video is like one of the few videos where I really took my time to edit. Like, and honestly, that video isn't really that much better than like my more recent videos. Either way, I do just enough to get by. I remember hearing that phrase when she said that. I was like, okay, whatever that means. I mean, I knew what it meant, but I was like, not offended, but I don't know. It was just kind of, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. But now I think of that and I'm like, I sure do. Because in this world, in a lot of sectors in life, excelling in something doesn't get you jack squat. There are people who have resumes stacked to the nines and they're still having trouble getting jobs because the job market's horrendous, but they're still struggling to get jobs. Sure, excelling can set you up for success. I'm not saying it's like hindering you in any shape or form. I'm not saying don't get that extra degree, don't do this or don't do that. Like if you can, you should. But also, we don't have to be the best in order to succeed anymore. But I digress. I remember specifically in elementary school, I was gifted in math. So when my 6th grade math teacher told me that, it was, I don't know, that was like an eye-opening experience for me. That's when I realized, I was like, I'm not as smart as I used to be. I wasn't struggling in my 6th grade math class. But like, I remember I had to try. I had to like put a little bit more effort into what I did. Cause I remember telling my 6th grade math teacher, it's all the same woman. I told her that I had no idea how to divide fractions because she like asked me, or she singled me out in class, was like, can you solve this problem? I was like, no, I cannot, lady. And I remember her being concerned. She's like, you should have known this. And I was like, well, I didn't. So now what? I was so unbothered. Like, sue me for not knowing how to divide fractions. I eventually learned, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. She wasn't really giving me a hard time. I'm making this sound like she was more vindictive than she actually was. She wasn't. I don't really have any negative feelings towards her, but yeah, I remember when I was in her class, that was like during the peak of my Adventure Time obsession, and I'm like, maybe I would have learned a little bit more from your class if you dressed up as Prismo or something, dude. Put some effort in. Dress up like Lemon Grab. Oh, she would have been a really good Lemon Grab. Honestly, middle school in general was like a bit of an issue for me academically. I remember doing well in my English classes though. I remember my most favorite memories in the classroom was during like my English classes. My favorite teachers were my English teacher and my history teacher. A lot of people actually didn't like the history teacher. I liked her. I'm like, if you just did the work, you would like your teachers. A lot of people, off topic, sidetrack, a lot of people who are like, oh, so-and-so's awful, da-da-da-da, she's a horrible teacher. I'm like, if you just did the work and actually paid attention in her class, you would not have an issue. It's like, it's always the people who are cutting up in the classroom who have the most to say about teachers. I'm like, maybe if you just paid attention for once in your goddamn life, you wouldn't be feeling this way about her, because I'm totally okay with her. Why? Because I pay attention. I'm sorry. Like, that's just, that always irked me. I think by the time though I got to high school, academically speaking, it got better. I did avoid the AP classes though. Yeah, because like you could have started taking AP classes as early as like sophomore year. I did no such thing because I didn't hate myself. But yeah, I think high school was really strange though, because in high school there wasn't really a gifted program at all. Actually, there were just different level classes that you could take. You could take like the regular schmegular general classes, you could take the honors classes, and then you could take the AP, the advanced placement classes. It was really strange when I was in high school though, because the honors classes were way too easy for me. Like, oh my god, snooze canoe. Then again, I also wanted to kill myself when I was in my AP classes. It's like, where's the in-between here? I remember in one of my honors English classes, I had to take a test on the book of Mice and Men. By the way, she gave us the book one day and then the next day we had a test. So this wasn't my fault that this happened. But also she may have mentioned that we should have read the book. I don't know what the instructions were unclear. The point is that one day we were assigned the book. The next day we had to take a test on the book or something. I don't know if it was the exact next day, but it was like a very short time frame in between. I don't know. Super strange, super weird. Point is, a good chunk of the class did not read the book, including me. But I still got a C on the test. And to this day, I still haven't read Of Mice and Men. I'll get around to it one day. I don't know if that's me being smart or me just being a good guesser, because honestly, I am a pretty decent guesser. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my A-push class, AP US History, and I'm praying that a carbon monoxide leak would happen because I would rather sleep forever than do a DBQ. Like, I say all of this to say, if you are a former gifted kid, you aren't living up to people's standards, girl, who cares? So you did good. You were doing well. You were doing that thing in second grade. Big deal. Okay, I'm sorry. I know you won't unlearn wanting to be a people pleaser. Like, that's not something that can just turn off like a light switch. But isn't that a song, Charlie Puth? You turn me on like a light switch. The most freeing feeling that you could ever have is remove that pressure off of yourself to have to always succeed. It was glorious. I don't know when it happened. I don't know when I decided to just let myself vibe. But the second I let that expectation of myself go, I became a much happier person. Look, my skin is clear and everything. You think cleansers can get you this skin? No, it's called not stressing yourself out. That's how you get clear skin, guys. I prioritize my happiness over everything and made that boundary very clear with my parents specifically, because they the ones that be playing in my face sometimes. I used to play soccer. I don't talk about it very often, mostly because there's not much to say, but I used to play soccer. My mom, she told me this after the fact, by the way. This was never something that she threw in my face while I was still playing. She only brought this up after I said I wanted to quit. But yeah, she was banking on a sports scholarship for me specifically because I think women, they're like more likely to get sports scholarships than men. But I kind of crushed her spirit the second I said I quit soccer because I was over that. I was over them. My 15-year-old self had to crush that. I had to shut that down immediately because I would have rather shit in my hands and clap than have to spend another second with those girls on my soccer team. Yeah, you know what? I hope some of them are watching this. They're not, but I hope some of them are watching this. Some of y'all were the most obnoxious and vile creatures that I ever had the displeasure of playing soccer with. And I hope a hot air balloon falls out of the sky and lands on your house like Wendy did when her house in Kansas landed on that witch lady.
Her name was Dorothy, not Wendy. I may have subconsciously been thinking about Shelley Duvall. May she rest in peace.
That's right. You know what? I hope I'm in that hot air balloon and I fall on your house and then I'm able to snatch your shoes. I hope all of those things don't happen when you're in the house though, because I ain't gonna put that energy out in the universe. I don't wish for anything fatal to happen to anybody. I just wish for inconveniences. Is Cosmo and Wanda still around? Maybe we could work something out. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to live in a household that ultimately accepts who I am and my decisions. Some people don't have people in their lives who unconditionally love them and support them unless they're succeeding academically or professionally via their job. So my little speech, it's coming from a place of privilege. I get it. Some of y'all's parents suck. I hear you. Have you tried mustard gas? Getting your hands on a rare disease and using it as a bioweapon? Have you tried bringing an invasive species into your home? Hey, we can brainstorm ways to deal with them together, you and me. I'm here to help you. Help me help you. But yeah, I hope that former gifted kids can one day learn that their self-worth, it isn't tied to your accomplishments in life. You are worthy of love and attention, even if you aren't curing cancer or saving orphans from a burning building. In fact, it's okay to have a mediocre job or become an arsonist that specializes in burning down orphanages. We all have our paths in life. Do what makes you happy. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe, or don't. You know what? I do care. I don't like bringing up subscriber count because I don't want you guys to think that I like care or whatever. It's like reverse psychology. No, I don't care if you like or subscribe, but like secretly I do, because we about to hit a big milestone on the channel, and I would really appreciate it if you helped a bitch out. The fuck? Anyway, I'm sorry. I was trying to be eloquent about it and it just didn't come out that way. Anyway, members only. Join the channel to become a member. Book club on Fable, the app Fable. It's linked down in the description as well. Please join the book club. We are currently reading This Is How You Lose the Time War. So gay. You guys did not tell me how gay this book was. I'm enjoying myself so much. Sapphic relationships on top. Discord down in the description. Operation Olive Branch is down in the description if you like to support Palestinians. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for indulging me. I will see you soon, hopefully. I'm going out of town, so I don't know when the next video is going to be. Sorry, but I'll figure it out. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just disappear. You just never hear from me again. I need to stop threatening that. Okay. Bye.